So to do the original drawing, you'll need a pencil. It doesn't really matter which pencil it is, usually a 2H or an HB or a 2B, something like that. You'll need an eraser of some kind. It's always good to have a kneadable eraser, which is just here, and that helps just to get some of the excess pencil off so that it's not too deeply ingrained, and then your colour pencils will stand out more. Also, you will need coloured pencils. Now, these are the colours. I have picked out colours that match by doing a little swatch card and picking the colours out that I know I'm going to use for this project. Don't feel as though you have to do that, because you may have, say, a set of 12. So you just get the best colour you can for the sand, try and get 2 different shades, either a brown colour or a yellow colour, yellow for the sun, and then you can have any colours you want on the surfboards. It doesn't really matter, that's just what I've chosen. So we're going to go in and colour those now. You will also need, to do it the way that I'm doing it, a blender pencil to blend in the pencils in with each other to give a more smooth look, and possible a burnisher, which gives it the final kind of overall blend when you finish. So that's a blender and a burnisher. Okay, you can get them online anywhere if you just type in blender or burnisher. Okay, so I've got those ready. I'm just going to use the kneadable eraser a little bit more. You might also want to use a liner pen at the end to outline your drawing, as this is an illustration, so that's okay. So you can have that ready if you think you're going to need it. So I'm going to have that on the side. So let's get started. I think I'm going to start on the surfboards. So it's a very light blue colour that I have. And this is obviously a beginner lesson. And I'm just going in around that strip. Now I'm holding the pencil quite far away, and that means I can spread the colour more widely, more quickly. The nearer I hold it to the front, the more likely I'm going to do very sharp, intricate details, and the further I hold it away and the pencil's on its side, then the more smoothly I can lay down the colour. Okay, so we've done one layer, and that may be all we need to do. Oh, I have forgotten actually the darker blue. Let's pick a darker blue out. That's a bit too dark. Let's see this one. This looks more like a purpley blue. Let's try it on my sheet. Let's see what it has to say. I think that might be all right. Okay, so we're going in. Again, holding it far back, don't hold it too close to the front, and I'm just doing really quick strokes, and I'm trying to go around in circles, because by doing that you don't leave streaky marks. So where I started and I was doing the streaking, you can now see those marks. So now I'm going round to show you how to do it properly, and that way you get a more of a blended feel. Now I'm going to do one lot of pencil colouring on the whole thing before we use the blender, and then you'll see how that makes a difference. So I'm going in here with my pinky purple. Okay, again I'm still holding it quite far back, and I am literally just colouring in. I'm filling in the space. I'm not doing any dark areas, not doing any light areas. There's no shading involved. That can come later, as long as you've got your main colours down where you want them. So that's the outside edge of the purple, and that's the outside edge of that one. And then we're going to go in with this really light colour. It's like a light, because it's the palest thing on there. Now you can only just about see it, but that's fine. Okay, I'm just going to go over a few times to make sure I've got enough of the pigment out of the pencil and onto the paper. Now all papers have tooth, and if I can explain it, it's like if you were to go into a microscope, the paper would have teeth. and the lower they go, the more space you've got to put layers on. And with sketch paper, normally you haven't got much space to be able to put layers on, so we'll probably just do this layer, then go over it and maybe do some value shading. That was that purple, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Now the pencils I'm using are Castle Arts Soft Touch, and they're really, really good. I love them. They really are nice and soft and blend well. So yeah, so we're going to go for the yellow sand now. Again, I'm just going in circles, trying to get as much pigment down as I can to start with before I blend it all in. The more you can get down, the better it will look. Okay, going in, working my way around, trying to stay in the lines as best as I can to keep the shape. Again, don't do streaks of colour, it's kind of, I'm just going in circles. Okay. Right. Here we go. Then my next colour is like a funny sandy grey colour for the middle. Just doing the same in circles, holding my pencil about halfway down because I need to be a little bit careful. I want to make sure I'm getting the pencil in the right place. So I'll do that. I'm going to go over again to make sure there's enough pigment down. There we are. Now I'm going to come in with the sun. And again, I'm just holding the pencil quite far away, making sure I'm just covering the sun as best I can. It's a nice kind of orangey yellow colour. It's nice and bright. Okay, I might just go over the sandy yellow with it a little bit, just to brighten it up, just a little bit. Looks more orangey on the screen than it actually is in real life, to be honest. Right, so I'm going to get my blender now, my blender pencil, and then all we're going to do is go over the pencil with the blender pencil. Now you can see the difference between that side and that side. What the blender pencil is kind of mixing it all together and making sure that it's smooth and evenly spread. The pigment is smooth and evenly spread across the entire drawing. Okay, so I'm just turning it round once I've used one side. You can't really see so well on that. Now let's do this purple because you'll be able to see in comparison on the next side then how smoothed out it looks in comparison. You don't see the pencil marks so much, it just really smooths it out. Okay, we're going to do the same with the pink. There we are. So you can see the difference between the side that I have blended and the side that I haven't. It really gives it the finishing effect. It's just a really simple little tool to use, which just finishes off the colouring nicely. Okay, so then we're going to do the same over here. It may be that there isn't enough pigment, and sometimes that can happen when you haven't laid enough down, and so it can't blend into each other because there's nothing to blend in. But I'm going to keep going round, blend in what I can. There we go. So it's smoothing out a bit, but there's definitely not enough pigment on that one. So I'm going round again. I'm just going to do another layer till I'm happy that it doesn't look patchy. I want it to look smooth and blended out. Okay, so just putting some more pigment down just roughly and then blending in again. Now as we go further into more detailed tutorials, then I will be teaching more about value and more about lights to darks and a little bit of shading and things like that. But for things like this is an illustration rather than a detailed drawing of real surfboards or a real beach. So what we're going to do is just the basic colour. We won't worry about lights and darks and value. But it is coming in future difficulty level tutorials. So this is a 2, I think, a 1 or a 2. So a beginner. The beginner ones will be 1 and 2. Intermediate will be 3 and 4, and then there'll just be advanced videos for more advanced. Okay, so I'm blending all that in so you can see the difference between the outside and the middle now, what's blended and what isn't. So I'm going to continue doing that on the middle as well. I'm just going to sharpen it a bit because it's got some of the other colour on, and sometimes that happens, you get some of the other colour lingering on the end of the blender. You can also get blending stumps like these that work quite well. Tend to use those with pastels, but yeah, I quite like the blender pencils for using with pencils. Okay, that's a bit more smoothed out. Okay, so what we can do then is go in and put another layer on just to really bring out the colour, and it should feel like it's much more smoother going on and feel like you're just filling in any other of the grooves in the paper and really refining it. So that's what the second layer does. Now this is really useful for going in to do more detailed pictures so that you know you are going to have to layer your work. It will need to have layers. You can't get the coverage you need in the first pass, in the first layer. Okay, so even here I can feel that I'm filling the paper more. And then we can go over it again to smooth it out even more. Okay. It does tend to leave a little bit of residue that I either blow away or smudge away, but try and blow it, because if you smudge with your hand, which I just did, it can, luckily it didn't, but it can smudge across your whole drawing and then you'll ruin it. Right, okay, so that one is done. Now I'm going to go back in over on this one. This is where you can really see the difference now with the second layer. Much smoother, much more vibrant. Okay. Going in with my purple. Again, it should come up much more vibrant, much smoother. Now, I am a self-taught artist, but I have watched videos after videos after videos, either on YouTube or things like Udemy, and yeah, really honed in my skills that way. So you don't have to go to art college. When I was younger, I really wanted to, but just thought, oh, will I be able to make a living out of art? And back then it was much harder. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have computers really. They'd only just started to come out. So yes, I am that old. So in my 40s, I decided to take the plunge and leave my job and do what I've always wanted to do, because you only get one life, don't you? And then, because I was a primary school teacher, I thought, you know what I want to do? I want to teach what I've learnt. So that's how I got here. That's how I got teaching on YouTube. Right, I'm going in again with a very light colour, because it is very light and really does need whatever pigment we can give it. You can just about see that that is a different shade to the rest of the white paper. Yeah, so we've done that. I'm feeling like I want to go back over this again for some reason. Just not quite so happy with it. I can still feel, I get the feeling that some of the tooth of the paper still needs a little more filling. Yeah, that's better. I just didn't, felt like it was still quite patchy. And you know, you don't need to be a perfectionist about this, but I am just trying to show you how differently it looks when you use a blender to when you don't. There we go. So now we're going back in and we're going to do the sand colour. Give that another layer. We have blended that in, of course, already, like all the other parts, but now we're just going to go in, do another layer, get some more pigment down, and then go in. Possibly once we've done the whole thing, I might use the liner pen on it just to show you, if anything, what it looks like when it's done. So something like this you could just have as your creative journaling time, something you could just, it's an idea that you could just have in your sketchbook, your scrapbook, if you're doing a holiday scrapbook, any kind of paper crafting. You could do smaller versions, bigger versions. You could change it by adding more surfboards. Maybe you could add some beach huts in the background, or anything beachy. You could have what was I thinking? Buckets and spades. Anything really, any kind of beachy things. Picnic bag. Right, so we're going to go and blend over that again. Make sure it's all looking good. So I've only done a little postcard size version because I wanted to keep the tutorial as quick as I could, because pencil colouring takes a long time. It's one of the longest time of mediums, art mediums that you can get. So yeah, I wanted to make sure we could get it done within a relatively decent amount of time. So going in now with the middle section. Again, just filling in, trying to get the teeth of the paper filled in as best I can. There we go. I'm going to blend that. Now what the blender does, as I've said, is it's just mixing in the pigment into each other, but also breaking it up into the teeth of the paper a little bit more to allow you to put more on. So it is worth doing. But then what you can do when you've finished is you can burnish it, which will kind of give it a final overall big blend, which we use the other burnishing pencil for in a minute. Now what I want to do is I want to just do a little bit of shading. So I'm using the same colour, but I'm going over the areas I want to leave a little bit of shading on. So I'm going to make a little bump like it's the sand here. Do a little bit of shadow at the back as well. Now I always colour in the direction that the flow of what I'm drawing is. So the flow of the bump is that way, yeah? So I wanted to do that. Also, I might just add some of this darker sunshine orangey yellow just to some patches around here, which just gives it a little bit of depth, makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, you don't have to do this bit because it was fine as it was, but I like to just add a little bit of interest, a little bit of 3D-ness by doing a bit of shading, which basically means putting in some lights and darks. Yeah, that's all it is. Shading is value from lights, very, very light to very, very dark. And that is always what's going to make your picture realistic. Okay, see, that's already given it a bit of 3D-ness, hasn't it? Now I could get maybe a very, very light pink. Let's see if that will make a difference. I don't think it will. It's very difficult with coloured pencil to go over light with dark, and I think actually the colours on there are bright enough. What I'm going to do though is pick out quite a dark purpley colour and kind of just blend it into the edge there of that purple to give it a little bit of shading. So you can use, when you're working in values, you can use a different colour. If it's not exactly the same, it's okay, as long as it is darker. So that's given that a little bit of 3D-ness as well. And what I'm going to do is go in with the slightly sandier yellow, not the brighter one, but the slightly sandier one. And I'm just going to outline the inside of that surfboard on the left, just so it's got a little bit more colour in there. Can you see that? Just about. It's got a little bit more colour down there, and I think we'll do the same up here. Might even bring some of that grey up into it. Now the tooth is starting to fill and it won't allow me to put much down, so that's fine. Maybe I can get some in the top. So after a while you won't be able to put anything down, the paper just won't take anymore. Now with this blue surfboard I do feel as though I could get a bit more pigment down, so I'm going to put some at the bottom like on the other side, as though it's darker there, working its way up to lighter. Okay, there we are. Right, so just going to fill that in there around that edge. I still feel as though that pigment's not filled enough at the top. Perfect. So you could leave it like that. I'm just going to go over again and blend the bits I've just done, just a little bit. They won't need much because we'd already blended underneath and we were just putting some extra values in. So the final thing now is to use a burnisher, and we're going in with a burnisher, and it's kind of, that will finalise everything and will really blend it out and smooth it out, and you'll be at the point where it won't, you could rub it and it won't smudge once you've burnished it in. So this is the burnishing pencil, if you didn't know already. So just go over the whole thing with that really, and just make sure you've got it exactly how you want it. I'm not being too perfect with this because it's just my example, but if you have got more time then you could be a bit more careful than me. I am being very quick. So just go around in circles really. You just go over the whole thing, working your way around in circles until you've got it exactly how you want it. Okay, now at this point, as I say, you can leave it as it is. As it is, it's a really nice little picture, but what you can do is use your liner pen and come in and redraw what you had in pencil like that. So this drawing is one I've drawn, which is part of a collection of beginner drawing tutorials where I use a step-by-step sheet along with a video to teach you how to draw it in the first place. And then I also have videos to teach you how to colour it in either pastels, colouring pencils, watercolours or acrylic paints. Now once you've burnished, I'll say this now, getting your liner pen on can be a bit tricky because it's quite slidey. It's become almost shiny and slidey, not like it would have been if you'd have just left it as colouring pencil on its own. So it's very much just be careful and go slow. because you want it to be in the right place, because at this point you could ruin it. And don't forget, if you want to turn it around, then you can. If that helps you to get it drawn, turn it around and move your hand rather than move the paper around rather than trying to move your hand into awkward positions. Now you can see here that because it was burnished, it was a bit slidey and it missed a bit. So you can just go over it, it's fine, but that's why I say go slow. So if you have any patches like that, then it will be okay. You can go back. See there, it's like in places where it's a bit thin, it's because I can't get much pen down in that area on the first pass. I'm going to have to go over it again. There we go. It's been well and truly burnished. There we go. Alright, so that's that. As I say, you can visit my website heartanddesign.org.uk, find the pages where it says chameleon. All the worksheets are there. I have actually just started it at the time of making this video. My first pack will be up, but there will be lots more to come. I'm going to try and keep up with it and go through from beginner up till advanced. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's taught you a couple of new things, and hopefully you'll see me in the next one. And have a good day until then. Bye.